The official narrative directs your attention to the Arctic. Policymakers cite the imperative for a new missile defense system as a core strategic priority. This is a misdirection. While the media focuses on a visible kinetic threat, a launch event you can track, they are intentionally obscuring the real vector of attack. The primary vector is not a warhead. It is silence, a systemic, coordinated effort to achieve information dominance by severing the adversary's central nervous system. CSIS analysts have modeled the catastrophic impact of a targeted severance of undersea fiber optic cables, the conduits for over 95% of all global data and financial transactions. Simultaneously, a high-altitude denial strategy targets satellite communications, blinding the strategic eye in the sky. This is the blueprint for creating a blind Leviathan, a superpower with unmatched kinetic force rendered inert. Its carrier groups become liabilities. Its financial markets freeze, not because they are destroyed, but because they have lost signal. The objective is not to defeat the Leviathan in a fight. It is to unplug it, to disconnect the command structure from the kinetic asset, inducing a state of strategic paralysis where conventional response is a mathematical impossibility. The motive is not conquest, it is solvency. When a state faces terminal domestic liability, its only move is to externalize the crisis. It must export its own bankruptcy, forcing it onto the balance sheet of its rivals. CSIS analysis frames the prolonged kinetic events, such as the Russian offensive campaign, not as a projection of strength, but as a symptom of an untenable domestic position. An unpopular war becomes a fiscal black hole, a liability that cannot be sustained. This weakness forces a pivot to asymmetry. The entire strategic blueprint is engineered to impose a disproportionate kinetic cost on any intervening power. The objective is not to win a conventional engagement. It is to make the engagement financially ruinous for the adversary. The Russian offensive, meticulously tracked by the Institute for the Study of War, is therefore a financial instrument of attrition. Every deployed asset, every logistical chain, every political debate over funding becomes a victory for the strategy of systemic degradation. The goal is to make the cost of conventional deterrence mathematically unsustainable. The entire blueprint pivots on a single, brutal equation. This is the economics of lethality. Analysis from RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, quantifies the kinetic cost of a single main battle tank at approximately $5 million. In contrast, the first-person view drones now being deployed in the Russian offensive cost as little as $500. This is not a balanced exchange. It is a systemic solvency attack. For every multi-million-dollar asset neutralized, the replacement cost for an adversary is negligible. This is the weaponization of economic asymmetry. The math doesn't lie. An adversary can afford to lose 10,000 drones for every single tank destroyed. This isn't warfare. It's engineered bankruptcy. This mechanism is known as the democratization of violence. High lethality capabilities, once the exclusive domain of superpowers, are now accessible at a commercial price point. The deployment of AI-guided drone swarms, as detailed in reports on China's algorithmic warfare doctrine, is the accelerant. It renders billion-dollar legacy platforms a quantifiable liability on the national balance sheet. When your opponent can trade a $500 asset for your $5 million asset indefinitely, conventional deterrence fails. Your capacity to project force is bled dry, not on the battlefield, but on the treasury ledger. You are being forced into a corner where the only remaining leverage is the one option that bypasses the balance sheet entirely. The map is not a random collection of crises. It is a blueprint. The roadblocks established by armed militias in Venezuela are not an isolated event. They are an engineered liability. Per a recent State Department advisory, this instability necessitates a drawdown of American presence. This is the intended function. These theaters are not the primary conflict. They are meticulously selected proxy laboratories. These gray zones are designed for strategic attrition. The objective is to bleed a superpower's economic solvency and military readiness on low-cost, high-friction conflicts. While conventional assets are committed to managing these manufactured fires, the primary vectors of attack are advanced elsewhere. Analysts at RUSI confirm this model, create multiple geographically disparate pressure points to dilute strategic focus and exhaust logistical chains. This is where the technological accelerant is introduced. According to reports on China's AI development, these zones are the perfect staging ground to field-test low-cost, high-lethality autonomous systems. Hawks, Wolves, and Algorithms details the doctrine: deploy AI drone swarms to neutralize high-value assets. The gray zone is the laboratory where the cost-exchange ratio of this new warfare is perfected, rendering billion-dollar legacy platforms a mathematical liability. This multi-front bleed is the mechanism. While resources are hemorrhaged in proxy laboratories like Venezuela, protracted kinetic events, such as the Russian offensive detailed by the Institute for the Study of War, continue to grind down conventional forces. The entire strategy is a systemic degradation of response options, forcing the calculus towards the final asymmetric move. The focus on Arctic missile defense is the signal, a tacit admission that the board is being cleared for a launch-on warning endgame. The protocol is called Launch-on Warning. It is a Cold War relic designed for a single purpose: to ensure a retaliatory strike is fired before incoming warheads can destroy a nation's own nuclear arsenal. The logic is brutal. If you wait for impact to confirm an attack, you may have nothing left to launch. Now introduce the new vector, a cyber attack. Analysts at CSIS have modeled this scenario. It is not about kinetic cost, it is about data integrity. An adversary doesn't need to physically destroy a radar array. They only need to blind it. This creates what military strategists call the fog of digital war. The command center's primary intelligence feed, its eyes, goes dark. The screens show no signal. In that moment, the commander is faced with a zero-sum calculation. Is the silence a technical glitch, or is it the prelude to impact? To hesitate is to risk total annihilation. To launch is to initiate global thermonuclear war based on a digital ghost. This is the ultimate asymmetric trap, forcing an opponent to trigger their own solvency crisis out of engineered fear. The choice is no longer strategic. It's a panicked reaction driven by a corrupted algorithm. The doctrine of asymmetric escalation requires testing the target's response mechanisms. Protracted kinetic events in Europe and engineered liabilities in locales like Venezuela serve to drain strategic reserves. But these are known vectors. The next phase is a direct probe against the homeland infrastructure, designed to be dismissed as systemic failure. This is the calibration shot. Within the next 12 months, anticipate a synchronized logistics paralysis event at a Tier 1 U.S. seaport. The target will not be the ships, but the data layer, the crane automation and container management software. CSIS reports confirm the vulnerability of these legacy systems. The event will not be a brute force hack. It will be an induced cascade failure, triggered by a zero-day exploit that mimics organic software decay. The AI swarm principles documented by analysts in Chinese drone warfare are directly applicable to the digital domain: low-cost, autonomous, and designed for maximum chaos with minimum forensic trace. The public narrative will be aging infrastructure. The economic impact will be a multi-billion-dollar kinetic cost to national solvency. The true purpose is intelligence. It is a test to measure the delta between detection and response, to quantify the political paralysis, and to calibrate the economic shock required for a future decisive strike. It is the final data point needed before the board is permanently altered.